is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. Well, actually, it's only been a week. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Aaliyah's Try Again. When your name means the highest, most exalted one, the best, you know you're destined for great things. And Aaliyah definitely achieved great things in her life. An icon of 90s R&B, Aaliyah immediately became one of the genre's biggest artists at the young age of 14, eventually redefining the role of what an artist in that genre could be, breaking through into the hip-hop and pop charts. Since her untimely death in 2001, the proclaimed princess of R&B has left behind a legacy in which, to this day, she continues to be celebrated for her talent as both a recording artist and a motion picture star, while being credited for introducing a sound that is widely considered the blueprint for R&B today.
Am I saying your name right? I am, right?
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah.
Yes.
I say Aaliyah. It's Aaliyah.
Aaliyah.
Like Muhammad Aaliyah. I got it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Congratulations.
Aaliyah Dana Horton was born in Brooklyn, New York on January 16th, 1979 to parents Diane and Michael Horton. The Horton family relocated to Detroit, Michigan, where Michael got a warehouse job working for his brother-in-law, Barry Hankerson, a music industry veteran and entertainment lawyer, once married to Motown legend Gladys Knight. Diane was a professional singer who stayed at home to raise Aaliyah and her older brother by 2 years, Rashad. Aaliyah inherited her mother's passion for singing and began taking singing lessons that helped her perform at weddings, churches, and charity events from a very young age. This prepared her for her first role. While attending Gesu Catholic Elementary School, Aaliyah won the lead in the school's production of Annie. Aaliyah then began attending auditions for commercials and television shows, including hit ABC sitcom Family Matters, best known for giving us the biggest nerd ever, Steve Urkel. Aaliyah tried out for the role of Judy, the youngest child in the Winslow family, but lost out to actress Valerie Jones. Then at the age of 10, she appeared on Star Search, a weekly television talent show hosted by Tonight Show star Ed McMahon. In the 80s and 90s, everyone from Beyoncé and Britney Spears to Backstreet Boys and Justin Timberlake tried to impress the judges on Star Search over the show's run. Here's a clip of 10-year-old Aaliyah being introduced by Ed McMahon.
Now, Aaliyah, you're a great singer. What else do you do?
Well, of course, I love to sing, and I love to dance and act, and I love swimming.
Swimming? Terrific. All-around girl. All right, let's find out what the judges have to say.
Unfortunately, Aaliyah wasn't successful in singing the standard classic My Funny Valentine, but her opponent, a girl named Katrina Abrams, will always have those bragging rights, I guess. Still, years later, McMahon, who wasn't one of the judges, would tell Vibe magazine that he saw something special in Aaliyah. There's a thing that you see when somebody walks out on the stage. I call it the fire. They got that inner fire, which has nothing to do with the schooling, nothing to do with the teacher, nothing to do with the parents. There's a desire in that person to please the audience. You see enough of it to recognize it, and that's what I saw with Aaliyah. While losing on national television was heartbreaking for young Aaliyah, it didn't stop her from chasing her dream. Her uncle Barry Hankerson was there to help her out, taking her to Las Vegas to perform with her aunt Gladys Knight. Aaliyah performed 2 songs nightly over 5 days with Knight, who would invite her out on stage to sing one song in the middle of the concert, and close the night with a duet together for Believe in Yourself. I would stand in the middle of the stage, sing, and just walk off, Aaliyah would tell The Telegraph. Gladys said to me, "You can't do that. You have to work the audience, make them feel what you feel." Years later, Knight would recall those moments with Aaliyah to Hello magazine, saying, "From an early age, I knew she had enormous talents, an intrinsic gift. When she first performed with me in Las Vegas, she was still quite young, but she already had it, that spark the world would later see and fall in love with." It was around this time that Aaliyah began auditioning for record labels in hopes of scoring a record deal. With guidance from her mother, Aaliyah dropped her last name and began marketing herself simply as Aaliyah. Her uncle Barry took her to Vanguard Studios in Detroit to record some demos he could shop around to labels. He caught some ears of reps at both Warner Music and MCA Records, but neither label was willing to sign an artist that was only 12 years old at the time. A deal, though, was waiting for them, one that would end up being both a blessing and a curse. At the same time he was trying to launch Aaliyah's career as a recording artist, Barry Hankerson was also managing an up-and-coming R&B artist named Robert Kelly, better known as R. Kelly. Kelly had been a member of Chicago new swing group Public Announcement, but he left the group to pursue a solo career after just one album. Thanks to Kelly's deal with Jive Records, Hankerson repeatedly pitched Aaliyah's music to the label as early as the age of 11. While the head of the label, Clive Calder, heard the potential in her voice, he felt Aaliyah was too young and still needed to develop as an artist. And so Aaliyah began studying drama at the newly opened Detroit High School for Fine and Performing Arts, where she would later graduate with a 4.0 GPA. At the age of 14, Aaliyah finally got her deal with Jive Records, which agreed to distribute her music through Hankerson's own label, Blackground Records. Years later, then Jive A&R rep Jeff Sledge would describe what made Aaliyah so special from a young age. She had her own voice. It didn't fall off because she didn't remind you of anybody. It was her knowing what she wanted to do and how she wanted to look. Even as a young child, even as a young kid, you could tell that she had that something. She was a great addition to the label because we didn't have a young girl like that rapping or singing. A girl that was straight up R&B like that. We didn't have anybody. It was a hole that she filled. Once she was signed, Hankerson brought in R. Kelly to begin working with Aaliyah on her music, following the success of his solo debut album, 12 Play. She talked to Much Music's Master T about working with R. Kelly and how it all happened.
How did you hook up with R. Kelly? Because, I mean, he's obviously a mentor for you, I guess.
Yeah, he is. He's my best friend, really. We've been knowing each other for around 3 years. And I met him before he came out with Born into the 90s, through my manager, which is also his manager.
Right.
That's how we met. And I sang for him when I first met him. And a couple months later, we went to the studio and started working.
Right. You make it sound so simple, but my
manager is my uncle.
Right.
So, he's been in the business for a while. So having him, helped a lot in getting a lot of things done because he had, a lot of connections.
Right.
So.
For some reason, it made sense to everyone involved that a 27-year-old man could write from the perspective of a then 14-year-old girl. But the media had its concerns. Aaliyah defended the weirdness of the situation to the Los Angeles Times, saying, "He just spent time with me, trying to see how I thought about things and what people my age think. It may seem funny for him to do an album like this, but he has ideas about different things that he can't use on his albums." Not only was Kelly the sole songwriter and producer for Aaliyah's debut album, but he also took on the role of mentor for the burgeoning singer. The two worked closely at the Chicago Recording Company studio, with Aaliyah flying back and forth between Chicago and Detroit. The recording sessions took about 9 months before they were forced to pause so she could still attend school. Kelly and Aaliyah were spending a lot of time together outside of the studio too, going to bowling alleys, cinemas, and arcades to help him better understand how to write lyrics for her. "We vibed off one another, and that's how the songs was built," she told Wax Poetics. "He would vibe with me on what the lyrics should be. He'd tell me what to sing, and I'd sing it. That's how the whole album was done. We put in a lot of hours. As far as the music, we'd be in there all night making sure it was perfect. There were times when I was tired, but I knew I had to push on if I wanted to come off." Kelly took full control of every facet of the album, to point of Jive executives claiming it was essentially another R. Kelly album just with a little girl singing. He even named the album Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, which in the following years would be the source of much speculation and controversy. But Aaliyah knew what kind of artist she wanted to be and described her sound to Much Music.
How would you describe the record? Is it kind of like a street-sounding kind of record?
Yeah, it's street. Yeah. Like, my image is really street.
Yeah.
It's like a gangster type of flair. The music, it really isn't like hardcore or anything. Really, everybody can relate to it, I feel.
Right.
Everybody of all ages. So it's got a street flair, but it's not, hardcore gangster.
Right.
Preceded by Aaliyah's first single, Back and Forth, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number was released on May 24th, 1994. The album was well received by critics who applauded its ability to combine R&B, hip-hop, pop, and New Jack Swing. While it would only ever reach number 18 on the Billboard 200, the album would eventually go on to sell 6 million copies worldwide. Aaliyah was building a following, however, based on her style. Young girls were all of a sudden adopting Aaliyah's tomboyish look, wearing toques, as we say here in Canada, or beanies, as they say in other parts of the world, with their hair hanging down, sunglasses, Doc Martens, boxers, and big, baggy jeans. Speaking to Master T, Aaliyah described what it was like being a young star who had to balance her music with her schoolwork.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to intertwine a career and school, but I feel education is number one, so my parents helped me out, and the school has really been cooperative in giving me my work and everything.
Can you say that statement again one more time? The education one.
Education is number one.
Thank you very much.
Number one.
Yeah.
And, I work hard. It's hard, though, because I want to be very good in this career, and I rehearse a lot, but, I have time for schoolwork. I make time for schoolwork.
While Aaliyah's star power was beginning to take off, so were rumors that she and R. Kelly had a secret romance on the side. From the sentimental dedication on the back of the album that read written and produced by R. Kelly especially for Aaliyah, to the overly sexual lyrics written by the man who popularized the term bump and grind, age ain't nothing but a number became fodder for the gossip columns. It all came to a head in January 1995 when Vibe published an expose claiming 15-year-old Aaliyah was secretly married to 28-year-old R. Kelly. Included in the article was a photo of a marriage certificate confirming the nuptials happened at the Sheraton Gateway Suites in Rosemont, Illinois, back on August 31st, 1994. Most interesting of all was that it listed Aaliyah's age as 18 years old, which made her appear as an adult. Even more shocking than that, some media outlets reported that Aaliyah was also pregnant with Kelly's child. All of a sudden, Aaliyah's brief, blossoming career was about to be overshadowed by one bombshell of a scandal. With the media focused heavily on the relationship between Aaliyah and R. Kelly, both parties denied the two had exchanged vows. In February 1995, at the demand of her family, Aaliyah reportedly filed to have the marriage certificate annulled in the city of Detroit. She was also instructed to immediately cut ties both personally and professionally with Kelly. 2 years later, Aaliyah would also file a petition in the state of Illinois to have the invalidated marriage certificate wiped from her record, which was granted by a judge who sealed the documents. Aaliyah would avoid discussing Kelly moving forward. When she was asked about the Chicago Sun-Times about her alleged marriage to him, she said, "I don't really comment on that because I know that's not true. When people ask me, I tell them, hey, don't believe all that mess. We're close and people took it the wrong way." But Kelly's presence would linger for years to come. In 2019, while Kelly was on trial for racketeering, which included charges of kidnapping, forced labor, and sex trafficking, his former tour manager, Demetrius Smith, would testify in court that he obtained an official state ID for Aaliyah that did not reveal her date of birth after she believed she was pregnant. He also worked with Kelly's inner circle to help Kelly get a marriage license so he could marry Aaliyah to, quote, protect himself and to protect Aaliyah. That same year, a two-part docuseries on Lifetime called Surviving R. Kelly revealed that Aaliyah's family had allegedly signed a non-disclosure agreement with R. Kelly stating that they wouldn't press charges against him for his illegal marriage to their daughter if he promised to sell them the rights to his first 3 albums. Aaliyah was looking to move on with her life and her career, though, but that was easier said than done. Despite selling millions of copies of her debut album, Aaliyah was stigmatized by the music industry for her involvement in the scandal. At the same time, she was struggling to find herself as an artist after the ordeal with R. Kelly. She would tell Wax Poetics, "I faced the adversity. I could have broken down. I could have gone and hid in the closet and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. But I love singing and I wasn't going to let that mess stop me. I got a lot of support from my fans that inspired me to put that behind me, be a stronger person." Although her uncle Barry Hankerson continued to work with R. Kelly, Aaliyah was released from her deal with Jive Records, which allowed her to try and start over with a clean slate. Still with Hankerson's Blackground Records, Aaliyah joined Atlantic Records and began to rebrand herself with a new label and a new sound. She also wanted an opportunity to contribute to the songwriting. She would tell Much Music's Tracy Melcher,
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to work with some new producers, get a new feel, new vibe on the next album, and me and my brother write a lot together, so hopefully we can get a song or 2 on the next album. Try out our talents. But I think I'm going to have more creative control on this album.
Free of R. Kelly's control over her music, Atlantic wanted to grow Aaliyah's sound by setting her up with different collaborators, but also allow her to co-write and make executive decisions herself. "I wanted to maintain my smooth street musical image, but wanted to be funky and hot yet sophisticated," she told Billboard. Established names like Jermaine Dupri, Darkchild, and Daryl Simmons signed on to work with Aaliyah, but she also wanted to work with unknown producers who could help her define a sound all to herself. It was then that Atlantic's vice president of A&R, Craig Coleman, suggested working with up-and-comer producer/songwriters Tim Mosley, better known as Timbaland, and Missy Elliott, who had sent in a demo that impressed him. Coleman would recall his meeting with Timbaland to Vibe. "He started playing me beats and it was a really obvious meeting of, this doesn't sound like anything that's out there, and really had its own super exciting and electric, just dynamic properties. I called up Aaliyah and I said, you need to meet this guy. His name's Timbaland and he's new. I think this could be your muse to really create something special. We put Missy and Timbaland and Aaliyah together and everybody really hit it off famously. The chemistry was incredible, and they just started creating, and it really worked. The two met up with the 16-year-old Aaliyah in Detroit as she was finishing her studies at Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts. Both Timbaland and Missy weren't sure what Aaliyah would think of the sound they'd been working on. Missy would tell Billboard, "I was scared. I don't know if Tim was scared when we first played it because it was a different sound. It was a different way to attack records because people were really singing then. That world of rap singing didn't really exist." However, Aaliyah liked how the duo were pushing the envelope and coming up with a fresh and futuristic sound that no one had heard before. With Timbaland's skittering production and Missy Elliott's staccato phrasing of the lyrics, Aaliyah felt their cutting-edge style was exactly what she was hoping for. Speaking with Wax Poetics, Aaliyah said, "Before we got together, I talked to them on the phone and told them what I wanted. I said, 'You guys know I have a street image, but there's a sexiness to it, and I want my songs to complement that.' I told them that before I even met them. Once I said that, I didn't have to say anything else. Everything they brought me was the bomb." Timbaland and Missy Elliott would end up co-writing and producing the majority of Aaliyah's sophomore album, which she called One in a Million. The album begins with Missy declaring, "You've just now entered into the next level, the new world of funk," which set the tone for an album people would credit for changing the face of R&B moving forward. One in a Million was released on August 13th, 1996, 2 years after Aaliyah's debut. More than anything, it proved that Aaliyah was willing to take the risks necessary to become the artist she saw herself as. The album was both a critical and commercial success, with lead single If Your Girl Only Knew topping Billboard's US Hot R&B hip-hop songs and peaking at number 11 on the Hot 100. And it didn't just stop at the music. Once again, Aaliyah reinvented her image, becoming the spokesperson for Tommy Hilfiger, sporting the red, white, and blue signature colors often in her public appearances. She also introduced an instantly iconic look by wearing her hair down, swooped across half her face to cover one eye. Rumors spread that she wore the hairstyle and sunglasses because she was blind in one eye. However, the hairstyle was simply paying tribute to her mum's favorite actress, Veronica Lake. She would talk to Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka about the importance of her style.
Well, everything goes hand in hand. Image is important. That's how people identify with you. So I'm always aware of what I wear, whatever I'm doing in a video, conceptually and fashion-wise. It's very important to me. So it's something that I think about to keep myself real, and like I said, to keep myself very different. And my stylist knows me better than anybody, so he knows what I'm like, what I'm gonna like, what I'm not gonna like. But it's not everything, but it is an important aspect of my career.
In 1997, Aaliyah would surprise the music world by recording a pop version of Journey to the Past for the soundtrack to the Fox animated film Anastasia. The song was markedly different from her R&B sound, but it received a nomination at the 70th Academy Awards for Best Original Song, losing out to Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On from Titanic. In fact, Aaliyah's next few songs were all recorded for the big screen, and her next release would become one of her biggest hits to date. Recorded for the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack, Are You That Somebody found Timbaland in a giant sandbox playing around with all sorts of toys and tricks. From the iconic sample of a baby cooing to the dizzying beats that were inspired by Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory's Oompa Loompa song, Aaliyah's breathy vocals are almost eclipsed by everything going on. But Are You That Somebody was a crossover hit for Aaliyah, getting airplay all over Top 40 radio, topping Billboard's US R&B hip-hop airplay chart, and earning her first Grammy nomination for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. She would follow that up with I Don't Wanna from the Ice Cube starring comedy Next Friday, which went all in on showcasing her R&B roots. The song would also make an appearance on the soundtrack to Romeo Must Die, a new action flick based on Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, starring Chinese martial arts superstar Jet Li. Aaliyah had an even bigger role with this film and its soundtrack. Not only did she contribute 4 songs to the film, including the muscular Come Back in One Piece with DMX, she also scored her first acting gig opposite Jet Li that required her to even learn some fighting moves. Speaking to the Associated Press, Aaliyah explained that the role of Trish O'Day appealed to her because she felt that there were parallels to her life.
I wanted this role because I felt we were similar in a lot of ways. She's a tough girl, she's independent, but she loves her family, and that's what motivates her, and that's where her anger comes from, because she doesn't approve of the lifestyle, but she's a no-nonsense girl.
Romeo Must Die was a surprise hit at the box office, but even bigger was the single released from the soundtrack. The The track was called Try Again and found Aaliyah teaming up with friends Timbaland and Static Major to create something unlike anyone had heard before. Blending the genres of pop, R&B, trip-hop, techno, and hip-hop, Timbaland brought a sample from Eric B. and Rakim's I Know You Got Soul to use for the intro. Along with the squelching synths, synthetic horns and strings, and his own fake record scratching noises, he also came up with a dope beat to step to. But it was purely by accident, and he almost lost it after making it. He would tell the I Am Athlete podcast.
Static wrote that record. Like, ain't nothing really come to mind. You know, I was in my zone. I was in my bag. It was just like another hit for me. And then when I found that bass line, it was like I was playing with this keyboard, and it was a mistake. And my engineer, Jimmy Douglas, caught it. I said, Jimmy, did you catch that little rhythm? He said, I sure did. And so he caught it, played it back, and I just put the beat on it. I said, ooh, chop it right there. And then I was like, he chopped it right there, and it came in there. So me and Static always wrote, because Static wrote So Ancient, wrote a lot of Genuine records. He wrote Pony. So Static wrote the record, and the song was like, the first version was, you could be a fireman, a counselor, a lawyer too. So it was too like preachy, and then Barry was like, yo, you gotta make it more fun. So we just changed up the lyrics. Static had the hook, and we knew it was dope. Once we like changed last fast, like, oh, we could change the hook. So we didn't have to change the hook, so Static just changed the verse. It was just, we knew what it was.
Yeah, you know a hit when you feel it.
But when Jay-Z came in the studio, and he was like, oh my God, that's when I was like, oh yeah, we got one. But for us, it was more like,
we just did something good.
You know, we know it's good for us. We didn't know it was a hit. We just know that it was good for what we was doing. I know it was dope because the sound was dope. It was doing arpeggiation, and people weren't doing arpeggiation back then. So it was doing this kind of rhythm, and I was like, I said, did you catch that? Because I had missed it. But thank God my engineer caught it, because we would not hear that song today.
With Timbaland cooking up the beat, Aaliyah sings about a relationship where she tries to convince her lover not to give up on her, which she described on set while making the video.
A relationship, about a guy approaching me, and I'm saying basically, if I don't say yes up front, will you leave me alone or will you try again? If at first you don't succeed, just give it one more chance. So
it's about perseverance.
It's about perseverance and
is it worth
strength. Yeah, and if I'm worth it, just try again, you know.
Jet Li makes an appearance in the video, doing his martial arts moves in a room full of mirrors where Aaliyah and her dancers work through the choreographed moves. It was directed by Wayne Isham, who previously worked on videos with Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, and yes, Ricky Martin. The concept was a combination of the futuristic vibes of the song mixed with recreated scenes from the movie, along with clips of some actual scenes. But the idea for the very cool-looking room of mirrors came from Aaliyah, who wanted to recreate that awesome, memorable scene from Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. Released on March 21st, 2000, the same week as Romeo Must Die, Try Again was an immediate smash hit. The song found a home across multiple genres, pop, hip-hop, R&B, and dance, but it achieved something neither Aaliyah nor Timbaland had ever done before. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. While it would be nominated at the Grammy Awards for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance, the video won 2 Moon Men at the MTV Video Music Awards for Best Female Video and Best Video from a Film. Try Again was the crossover breakthrough Aaliyah had been waiting for. The song's success broke her out of the R&B and hip-hop bubble and established her as a bona fide pop star, while also bringing electronic music to the forefront of R&B. Almost immediately after that, Aaliyah jumped right back into the movies. She was cast as the title character in a film adaptation of Anne Rice's novel Queen of the Damned, the sequel to Interview with the Vampire. In it, she played Akasha, the mother of all vampires who dated back to ancient Egypt. She explained what attracted her to the role in an interview with Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka.
I loved the fact that she was totally in control. She's this powerful being who is a bit mean. You know, I kind of want to explore those sides of myself and bring that character to life. I took a month here in New York to get with an accent coach to figure out what kind of accent I wanted to give her, being that she's Egyptian. So we came up with a hybrid of a few different things. Got with my acting coaches, and when I went to Australia, we did a month of rehearsals, more acting lessons, even working with dance coaches to figure out how vampires move, and a lot of different things to just bring the characters, you know, to life. But I really had a lot of fun with her, you know, being that manipulative but yet very sensual creature.
While shooting the movie, Aaliyah also spent time in the recording studio, filming her scenes by day on location in Australia and working on her next album at night. In total, the album was recorded in different studios throughout Melbourne, New York, and LA, taking nearly 3 years to finish. Sessions finally wrapped up in March 2001, more than 2 years after it was originally expected to be released.
I'm glad that I took a break, to think about how I wanted to approach the third album, to put the time that I wanted to put into it, to make sure that it was the best that it could be for my fans. I feel they deserve the best. So I wanted to give my all, and I'm glad that it's coming out at this point, because I'm older now. The album has a very mature feel to it, yet it's something that still young people can get into, people my age, people older. So I feel it has something for everybody, and I'm just happy with the outcome, It's exactly what I wanted.
While Timbaland would only produce 2 of the album's tracks, including I Care For You, written by Missy Elliott, the album, simply titled Aaliyah, was a moment for Aaliyah to demonstrate she was no longer a kid. She was now a woman. This was demonstrated by more mature productions like I Care For You, More Than a Woman, and It's Whatever, the influence of which you can hear on so many contemporary R&B pop artists. Aaliyah, the album, was finally released on July 7th, 2001, preceded by the single We Need a Resolution, as well as Try Again, which was added as a bonus track. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart and would reach number 1 shortly after. After a 5-year wait, Aaliyah was on top of the world with the success of her third album, but then tragedy struck. After wrapping a video shoot for the album's second single, Rock the Boat, with famed director Hype Williams, Aaliyah boarded a flight home to Florida 1 day earlier than scheduled. The twin-engine plane was smaller than expected and overloaded, carrying more weight than it should have. Shortly after takeoff, the plane crashed just 200 meters from the runway. 8 passengers, including Aaliyah, her hairstylist, security guard, makeup artist, and 2 Blackground Records employees died instantly from the crash. Aaliyah Dana Houghton was only 22 years old. Witnesses claimed an argument erupted before takeoff between the pilot and Aaliyah's entourage over the plane being overweight by hundreds of pounds. An investigation later determined that the pilot also had cocaine and alcohol in his system. Years later, it was alleged that because of her fear of flying, Aaliyah was already asleep when she boarded the plane after receiving a sedative. The death of Aaliyah had a tremendous impact on friends, family, and fans, as well as the entire music industry. Her body was laid to rest on August 31st, 2001 at the Church of St. Ignatius Loyola in Manhattan, New York. In the aftermath, Aaliyah's parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the operator of the aircraft, and it was settled out of court. 6 months after she passed away, Aaliyah was immortalized on the big screen with the release of Queen of the Damned. While it fared well at the box office, unfortunately the film was panned by critics. No Aaliyah music was featured in the film either. However, there were plans for her to record a duet with Korn frontman Jonathan Davis, who also made a cameo in the film. Before her death, Aaliyah was also set to appear in the sequel to The Matrix as the character Z. She actually filmed some scenes which, although they didn't make the cut, were included in a tribute featurette on the Matrix Ultimate Collection box set. It's now been more than 2 decades since Aaliyah left us, and her influence continues to grow each day. Appearing at the 2002 MTV VMAs, Missy Elliott paid tribute to her late collaborator and baby girl with a jacket emblazoned with Aaliyah's image. She remembered her friend and protege when she spoke to Much Music's Bradford Howe.
She's not here in body, but she's here in spirit, and she's going to be forever missed. Unfortunately, it had to be tragic like that, but I feel like she's here, and I put her on my back to be my guardian angel.
Positive out of the negative.
Yes. Gotta, you gotta get something out of it, and unfortunately it was a tragic, but I think with the loss, you learn to love the people while they're here on earth, and not take for granted of people that you see all the time that they're gonna be here forever.
Did it force you to draw closer to anyone you know? Tell them you love them?
Yes, my whole family. I mean, my family, my extended family, it brought me in, me, Timbaland, and Genuine always been very close, but we contact each other more because we don't want to have another loss like that.
Multiple posthumous compilations such as I Care For You and Ultimate Aaliyah appeared in the years that followed, but a much-discussed 4th album did not. Although Drake, a hardcore fan, claimed he was co-producing a new album for Blackground Records featuring unreleased material from Aaliyah, The idea was disowned by Timbaland and Missy Elliott, who denied any involvement in the project. While the album never materialized, Drake did release a new song called Enough Said, featuring vocals from the late R&B star. Aaliyah's star has never faded, whether it's MAC dropping a special Aaliyah for MAC Cosmetics collection or Madame Tussauds unveiling a wax figure of Aaliyah in her Try Again outfit. The princess of R&B will always be with us. And there's no further proof that the timelessness of her biggest hit Try Again, which to this day is always popping up on radio and streaming playlists as we speak. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Aaliyah's Try Again on Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.